review of the log cabin. We'll start the licensing review meeting of the log cabin in Llandrindod, Wales. Firstly, I'm going to introduce myself, and then we'll go around the room, and I'll ask you to introduce yourselves one at a time. I'll just do it with the list I've got of participants, so in no preference in any way, shape or form. So I'm Councillor Beverly Bainham. I represent the Prestine ward. I'm here today as the chair of the licensing subcommittee, and welcome to everyone. So first on my list is Councillor Deb.
Hi, I'm Councillor Deb Edwards. I represent Llangollen with Norton, and I'm on the panel list today for this hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Adrian.
Morning, Councillor Adrian Jones for the Berriew and Castle Crinan ward. Thank you.
Thank you. Natalie.
Good morning, Natalie Jones, licensing officer with Powys County Council.
Gareth.
Gareth Jones from Dilwyn Solicitors, and I have Mr. Sanders, the premise license holder, with me as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrea.
Hi, Andrea Murdoch, owner and operator of the Hotel Commodore, next door to the road.
Thank you. Rachel.
Good morning, Rachel Mole, solicitor for Powys County Council. I'm clerk to this hearing today.
Thank you. Paul.
Paul Buffton, senior environmental health officer at Powys County Council.
Thank you. Carol, would you like just to introduce yourself as well, please?
Thank you. I'm Carol Johnson. I'm Democratic Services Officer, so I'm taking the minutes of the meeting.
Thank you. And finally, Rod.
Rod Bowen, a Police Licensing Officer.
Thank you. Thank you all. Shall I just hand over to Rachel, and she can just very briefly set out how we're going to sort of keep track of the meeting this morning. Is that okay, Rachel, if you just give us a brief outline of the proceedings?
Of course, Chair, thank you. So the hearing will start off this morning with the licensing officer, Natalie, as the council's representative in presenting the report to the hearing. The panel can then raise any questions they wish to arising from that report. The responsible authority will then have their opportunity to put forward their case, and the panel and licensing holder and any objectors may then raise any questions that they wish arising from that. Then the license holder or his representative, or both, will then have the opportunity to put forward their position at the hearing today. The panel will then have the opportunity to raise any questions arising from that, and any objectors. Then each objector in turn will have a maximum of 4 minutes to put forward their case to the panel here this morning. And the panel can raise any questions they wish arising from that, and the license holder or his representative, or both. The chair will have the opportunity to make sure everyone has said everything they want to say at this hearing, and then the panel will retire with myself to a separate virtual room, if you like, to deliberate. Then they will return and the decision will be delivered at the hearing this morning. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Rachel. I just thought it was helpful for everyone. So if we're all happy, we will make a start, and I will firstly hand over to, well, it's Natalie. It's going to be first as a licensing officer. Natalie.
Thank you, Chair. So this review has been brought today by Environmental Protection following an investigation into noise complaints at the log cabin in Llandrindod. Following a review of this application, I accepted that this met the licensing objective of public nuisance, and so was progressed to a licensing review and sent to the responsible authorities and a notice placed at the premise. We received one representation from the neighbouring property, which is the property that prompted the investigation from EP initially. I also received a response from the police licensing officer, although this is not a formal representation, it's simply a suggestion. A request for an extension to the arranged licensing hearing was asked for by the licensee to enable him to obtain additional evidence. It was deemed fair and appropriate to grant this 28-day extension, and additional documents were supplied as the final appendices to this report. The police licensing officer has also sent some crime pattern analysis, which can be expanded upon by him if requested by the panel. The purpose for the licensing committee today is to take steps as considered necessary for the promotion of the licensing objectives. The options available to them are to reject the review and take no further action, to modify the terms and conditions, i.e. impose licensing conditions, exclude a licensable activity, suspend the license for 3 months, or revoke the license. I'm happy to answer any queries in relation to the licensing process. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Does anyone at this stage have any question on that process? No, thank you. We'll move on. Paul, are you going to take the presentation now, or are you going to do that afterwards? Sorry, or is it back to you, Natalie?
You invite each person then to, you know, I believe Rachel or yourself have got a running order of people who
I have.
That's
I have.
if the panel have any questions they want to raise arising from that report, now's the time to do so.
Yeah, no one's got any questions. So we'll move on to number 2 then, which is well, I've got 2 slightly different orders of proceedings actually, Rachel. So I've got, you said the responsible authority and questions. So, and then I've got applicant. Number 2 is the applicant or their representative.
That's it. So it would now be Paul Bufton's opportunity to put forward his.
I thought so. Sorry.
Yeah.
So over to you then, Paul.
Thank you very much. Am I working to a time limit or?
No, I think we need to be fair to people. So you need to be able to give the report or evidence as you see fit.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for clarification. I don't intend to. Sorry, the investigating officer in this case was Laura Lewis. Unfortunately, she doesn't work on a Wednesday, so I've had to step in and present the report on her behalf. I don't intend to go through her statement word for word. The panel will have had that and no doubt read it already. I just want to highlight some salient points from that report and expand on the noise monitoring that was undertaken as well. So a brief sort of timeline is that we first received complaints about the log cabin on the 7th of August 2023. And those complaints related to outdoor noise from the premises having an impact on guests staying at the Commodore Hotel. That complaint was raised by the owners of the hotel. Standard letters were sent to both parties in relation to statutory nuisance at that point, and those letters set out our procedure for investigation. And in addition to also provided Andrea Murdoch, the complainant, with a noise log so that she could provide some evidence to us of what she was describing as being impacted by. We had no response from the letter sent to the log cabin, so we proceeded as normal. After a 2 or 3 week period, the diaries were returned to us, the noise diaries, and you have copies of those in the appendices of Laura's report. And they pointed towards a late night noise problem with customers outside the log cabin, and those periods were extended to quite early in the morning to the very late hours. So we were concerned about that, and we also had a regular pattern of disturbance. So there was enough justification there for us to take the next step in investigation, which was to install a noise monitoring kit. That kit was installed in room number 12, which overlooks the log cabin. And if you'll see in Laura's report, there is a photograph looking out from that window onto the area in question. To give you some context, that noise kit was installed between the 27th of October 23 and the 7th of November 23. That's a B&K matron kit, which is fully calibrated. It sits in a sealed box in the room. What it does is it takes a noise level every second automatically. And then in addition, it has a button which the person in the room can press. Andrea can, and when they press that button, it takes an audio recording for us, so we can link the two things up. Andrea has confirmed that she was the only person to press that button because the room was vacant during the monitoring period. So all that evidence is supplied by her. When we got this kit back, it showed loud noise levels on the 28th of October and at 1:25 a.m. The 29th of October, we've got loud noise at 2 in the morning. It's loud chatter, that which you'd associate outside a late night drinking establishment at that time of day. 4th of November, 02:36, and the 5th of November, 02:59. So again, the patterns we picked up seem to support that was contained within the diary. Late night noise, quite loud, and of regular occurrence. If I could share my screen now, second time lucky. So hopefully I can show you, I can play those recordings to the committee so you can get a, I'm not going to play all of them, but it'll give you a feel for what's being experienced within that room. Could you confirm you can see my screen, please, Chair?
I can, yes.
Excellent, right. So what I'm going to do now is play you a noise recording from the 29th of the 10th, and that's date and time stamped by the machine at 01:58. The blue lines that you can see looks like an ECG. Those are the noise levels. And at the top, the purple bands are when someone has activated the machine to take an audio recording. So I'm going to now play that audio recording for you, if you can confirm you can hear it, please.
Yes.
If I could draw the panel's attention to the little box that says LEQ below the graph, and you can see the numbers flicking up and down, 39, 40, 41. So I've just stopped it now. Can I just can the panel just confirm that's sufficient to highlight the playback?
Councillor Adrian, Councillor Deb, can I check that you can
Yeah,
hear
I
that?
can hear it. Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, I could continue for the whole recording, but it's much of a muchness.
Mhm.
Yeah, I heard it. It's fine.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Well, and whilst we're on this recording, I just want to draw the panel's attention then to recordings that were made later on that evening. And then specifically, if I come down to this time here, can you see the red cursor at 2:36 a.m.? The noise from the premises at this point has stopped. And what we describe this period, this lull here, is as background noise. And taking some readings off that scale, we're now dropping from noise levels at 2 a.m., which are over 40 dB, down to noise levels which are 19 and 20 decibels. That is that's the background noise level. That's what you'd expect in the area without this noise occurring. And you can obviously see later on at night that continues as well. It's probably passing vehicles by here. What I want to highlight there is that's a huge jump in decibel levels within that sort of bedroom. We use British Standard 4142 to assess industrial noise. I know this is an industrial noise, but that gives us a guideline of a difference of 10 decibels over background as something that is likely to cause complaint. From the recordings we've made, we're talking levels in the region of 20 decibels. It's a logarithmic scale, so that isn't a doubling. That is a significant increase in noise level over background. And just to show the consistency, if I take the panel to a later recording, hang on, bear with me. We're now at 2:30 on the 4th of November. If I just play again. Okay, I've stopped that now. On this recording, there's peaks above 60 dB. It's significantly loud, and we'd contest as environmental health that you wouldn't be able to sleep in that bedroom given that level of noise. WHO, World Health Organization guidelines for sleep disturbance recommend levels of around 30 decibels for an 8-hour period. So again, that just supports that if you occupy in that room, with this sort of level of noise, it wouldn't be reasonable to expect any sleep. I'm going to stop sharing now unless the panel have any questions while I'm.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Adrian, you've raised your hand. Well,
yes.
Sorry.
Before you stop sharing.
Oh, hang on 2 seconds. Bear with me.
Just sort of a matter of interest. Can you go back to the first slide?
Yeah.
Not the one before.
Certainly, yeah. Hang on, bear with me.
Yeah, that's one here. Now, no, not that one. Go back.
I think that is the original one, isn't it?
Okay,
Yeah,
there was one where you highlighted there was background noise at 2 o'clock, and then it peaked again. You said it was traffic noise. Can we hear the traffic noise one?
We can't now, unfortunately.
Because that's got up to the level where you said it was unacceptable, but it had gone quiet because there.
Sorry, yeah. My expectation is that could have been a passing traffic. I don't know, in all honesty.
Well, my point is the passing traffic causes as much noise as your voice noises. Now, you see what I'm getting at? It's gone very flat, and you say that's background noise, and then there's a peak an hour later, and you're saying it's passing traffic, and it's hitting the same level as the voices.
I'm offering an opinion that it could be passing traffic. I don't know, in all honesty, because I can only give you information where there is a purple bar, because that has got audio and I can confirm what that noise is.
I understand. Thank you.
So we cannot listen to any audio after that purple bar, is what we're saying, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah, you can only hear audio in any of the purple bars, and I'm happy to play any of those.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Adrian. Councillor Deb, as the other panel member, do you have any further questions for Paul?
Oh, sorry, I was going to say a few more things.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You carry on, Paul.
Do you want me to finish first and then?
Yeah, that's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, as I say, we've called this licensing review basically as an opportunity to put some physical controls which we believe will reduce the noise levels to a reasonable level and allow both businesses to continue to operate in a reasonable way. We're grateful for the applicant for suggesting some conditions which we find favourable. I think the main issue for us was that by just shutting the one door, that outdoor area remains accessible from the pub, from the other door of the pub. And our concern is that patrons would continue to use that area, albeit it might be less favourable, but I think they'd still take that same opportunity to take drinks out to the other side. So we want that area. We want after midnight nobody in that area at all. And that's why we couldn't accept those conditions, and we had to go to the full hearing to seek the panel's views.
Thank you, Paul. So does that conclude your report there, Paul?
Thank you very much, Chair.
Yeah, no, thank you. Councillor Adrian, you still have your hand raised, but do you have any further
Yes,
questions?
I got another question. Obvious one, really. Paul can answer it, or probably Mrs. Murdoch. The bedroom window, was it open or closed when the recordings were taken?
Closed, and it has also secondary double glazing in that room as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, Adrian? No. Councillor Deb, we'll do the panelists first and then we'll come back round. So Councillor Deb as the other panelist, you have no questions. Thank you. Firstly, I am to ask the licence holder and their representative if they have any questions for Paul. So Gareth, you're on mute. Yep, that's it. We've got you.
Okay. Yeah, I really appreciate Paul didn't do the statement, but it's obviously a statement by Miss Lewis. And there was a comment in there I couldn't quite understand. Well, it might be accurate. It's the sort of fourth to last paragraph of her statement. She says that as one example, at 03:38 on the 4th of November 2022, the recordings were showing recordings of 64.1 dBA. And then it says after log cabin closes, the readings are between 25 and 30. Obviously at 3:40 in the morning, the log cabin has been closed for at least an hour and 20 minutes. So I'm not sure how that's really relevant to is that correct? Is that a correct statement? It doesn't seem to be. Well, it might be a correct statement in terms of the reading, but the log cabin has been closed for an hour and 20 minutes after that time.
I think I highlighted a slightly different. Well, it was a similar example. She's trying to share the difference between noise when the log cabin is operational and people are outside, and the background noise level. It is that difference basically.
But if that is an accurate reading at 3:40, that can't be coming from the log cabin because it's been closed and the premises has been cleared. That's accepted. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, at 3:40. Okay.
It says 3:38. Sorry, 3:38. I should be more accurate. It says 3:38.
Yeah. No. You're right. Sorry. Yes. I mean, obviously, we haven't got any video recording equipment to verify that. What I can say is, I don't know whether it's appropriate, but Andrea Murdoch was the person who operated that kit, and she may be able to give us some more information around that. As I say, it may be appropriate for her to have a say later on. I don't know.
Okay. Rachel, I'm in your hands a little bit. Should I leave Andrea's statement till she gets to it, or shall I
Yeah, if we follow the order here.
Yes, no, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify that we weren't going to have a Q&A between different parties at that point. So Gareth, is there any other questions you've got for Paul on that report? I think we've noted that, and we'll
I'll just check. Hang on a second.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
It was covered. Yeah, I suppose it is appropriate for me to address this. So there's a couple of things actually. So the letter that was initially written to the premises, was there an obligation on my client to respond to that? Because it didn't suggest in the letter that he did. It suggested that there had been a noise complaint and that there would be monitoring. So it seems to be that the correspondence I've had, there's some sort of slight put on my client for not responding to that, but it's not really a case where they were asking for a response. Am I right?
There's absolutely no obligation. What I can say from experience is where persons do enter into a dialogue after receiving that letter, then we can sometimes secure better outcomes without having to go to the formal process.
Yeah, that's fine. And the only other point was the noise log sheets. I'm obviously the recordings will carry their own weight as evidence. The noise log sheets, they are, I mean, they're not particularly easy to read, the copies I've got. I can see part of them. I can see sections of the noise recording sheets when they were sent out to Miss Murdoch in August, I think, and she filled them out in I believe September. Those noise log sheets are completed by Miss Murdoch, who is the complainant. There is no signature from a guest or details of which guest from which room has complained. So the only point I make in that is the weight that you attach to that particular evidence. You know, I'm not saying that they're not an accurate recording, but at the same time, they are recordings by a complainant who has not, you know, had guests sign, give details of the room numbers, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing at all with that. It's for the panel to attribute appropriate weight. All I can say from the environmental protection perspective is that we take into account all evidence that's before us, and obviously we attach appropriate weight, and then hopefully the panel can attach that appropriate weight to the noise recordings which we made, which are in a sealed container that are you know, they're padlocked to ourselves. Fully calibrated on the type 1 noise level meter. But yeah, no, I take the point, but as I say, we take into account all the evidence, and the evidence that we obtained from the noise meter, in our opinion, supported what was supported the picture that was being presented in the diary.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So now we do move to Andrea for any questions of Paul on that report he's just given. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, morning everybody. I can explain the lull in that noise meter reading, having been there and witnessed. It raises up high again at a horrendous level when they're being asked to leave the pub. So you've got a big group of people coming out, congregated in the street. I just want to read just slightly here. This will give you some little idea.
At this point, Andrew, it's any questions you have of Paul on his report. So then you can give your statement and description.
Okay, but that's
okay.
Explain that lull is the people leaving from the outside seating area and the people coming from the actual pub.
Okay. So do you have any questions of Paul on the report he's just given?
No.
No. Okay. Thank you. So Paul, if you've concluded, that's fine on that section. We've had an opportunity to ask any questions regarding the report. So if that's okay, Rachel, we'll move on to item 3 on the agenda.
Yep, sure.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just want to make sure I give everyone a fair opportunity to ask any questions at any point. This is the license holder, so is invited to put their case forward. So I presume, Gareth, you will be doing that on behalf.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm sure the panel and everyone has had the opportunity of reading through the additional evidence that you kindly gave us an extension to provide. So, I mean, I've had the benefit of obviously having dealt with the log cabin, the Commodore personally in terms of licensing issues for quite a while. I mean, Mr. Sanders' statement deals with the history of the case. So obviously this is an unusual situation. Mr. Sanders owned both the Commodore and the log cabin as historically in 2006, before Miss Murdoch and her husband or the company that they run took over a lease of the Commodore in 2012. At that point in time, the Commodore and the log cabin were one and had one license, and that allowed for licensable activities from Monday through to Thursday until midnight, and then until 1 a.m. on Fridays, Saturdays. Obviously, when the lease was taken over, the licenses were split, and Mr. Sanders applied to vary the license. And in about 2013, the log had its own license carved out of the previous license. The log kept the license, sorry, and then I believe the Hotel Commodore applied for its own license. So from 2013, the log cabin had outside, the outside area was licensed from 1 AM. Then in 2015, an application was made to extend the licensable activities at the log till 2 AM. So these licensable activities, or the outside area, which is the bone of contention, I believe, here, and have been going on since 2013, 2015, at least 2015 to 2 AM. And throughout the period of 2012 to date, Miss Murdoch has been either a owner and or tenant at the Hotel Commodore. Obviously then in 2017, Miss Murdoch exercises a right under the lease to buy the Commodore, an option to purchase, and then she becomes the owner of the Commodore in 2017. And then I think it's fair to say the relations between the parties do break down for one reason or another, and I'm not sure, I don't know all the details, but the relations break down. So so we have a situation where the log and the Hotel Commodore are running in separate ownership, well, from 2017, at least ownership of the freehold anyway. But it's a situation where it's quite surprising in view of the history. There is the history of the Commodore, the log. There used to be a nightclub at the back of the Commodore. It was a very busy part of town in Llandrindod, where you had lots of people descending on the log and the nightclub behind, lots of noise. For many years, it's the centre of Llandrindod Wells, and obviously these issues, I would not say are new issues. They are issues that have existed for years. Okay. So that's really the first point I want to make, there, just to set out the history of where we get to, how the licenses became split, and obviously Miss Murdoch became the owner of the Commodore in 2017. A point that Miss Murdoch does make in her application, which we deal with in Mr. Sanders' statement, is this outside area in the tables, and the issue that the tables have only been there since COVID. Mr. Sanders' position is that the tables in the outside area have been there since 2013, when he was allowed to have licensable activities from that point in time until 1 AM. So, I mean, obviously there is an issue with noise. I've listened to an hour and 10 minutes worth of recordings, which were kindly sent to me by Miss Lewis. There is issues with noise. Obviously, when Mr. Sanders was in negotiations with Miss Murdoch in terms of the taking on of the lease at the very outset, this was raised, the issues with the rooms closest to the log cabin. There was issues with noise, and that Ken would not use those rooms unless absolutely necessary. But when they're at their fullest, they would use those rooms, but make sure that they chose individuals who might not be so affected by the noise. They're all, as you can see, I think the best photograph, you saw a photograph from Paul Bufton's, not from Paul, from Miss Lewis's statement. Looking at the panel documents, I think where the recordings are taken, if you look at the is it section A of the bundle, it shows a plan of the of the area, and then there's also a photograph of the front page of the log, the entrance to the log cabin. I'm not sure their page number. It's the first photograph in section A. I don't know if you've got it up in front of you.
It's page 12,
Yeah.
members that people want to check.
Yeah.
There's a photograph on page 12 onwards.
So I believe the recordings that were taken are that window immediately above the first window on the left to the side of the side of the log cabin. Is that the window is that the room where the recordings were taken? I'm assuming it is. So I mean, this just shows the proximity of the two premises to one another. So obviously we've annexed to Mr. Sanders' statement some evidence sort of to put a more balanced view of where the noise issues are coming from. Miss Murdoch in her representations has annexed screenshots from bookings.com about complaints about noise, but there are also complaints about noise emanating from the Commodore, and a number of those booking.com reviews are in there which do not cite the log cabin. It cites issues from the Commodore, it cites issues from the function room at the Commodore, it cites issues from the outside terrace at the Commodore, it cites issues from the I think one of them is the swimming pool pump at the Commodore. So this is the centre of town. There's noise from various different sources, the Hotel Commodore, the log cabin. There's also, it's the centre of town, it's a thoroughfare. As Councillor Jones noted, there are cars passing back and forth, and I've listened to an hour and 10 minutes of recordings, which we may not have had the benefit of requesting, but it wasn't the extract that Mr. Bufton provided us earlier. But cars, I hear cars passing back and forth along this roadway, which drowned out the sound of the noise from the log cabin itself. So there are many different noise factors in this area. That's the point that Mr. Sanders was making. I don't think the noise can just be attributed to the outside area or the outside licensed area of the log cabin. Once the public set foot across that line to the pavements and across the road to the HSBC Bank, which is where people sometimes wait for their taxis at night, that is outside the log cabin's licensed area. There's people walking between pubs, there's people walking down to the kebab shop late at night for food. And the point we wanted to get across in our statement was, noise is just not coming from the log cabin. Ms. Murdoch has obviously mentioned the point about secondary glazing. We weren't aware that she has installed secondary glazing in those rooms until today. That was a point I was going to make, and a point I think we made, obviously, in Mr. Sanders' statement. Okay, so that's cleared that point up. The only other statement that I would sort of draw your attention to would be there's a Mr. Rossley who owns the Portland House across or opposite from the log cabin, about 50 yards opposite the log cabin, and he does not support Miss Murdoch's concerns, and also there is no other party other than Miss Murdoch, and I appreciate the Environmental Protection of now, it is their application who has raised concerns about noise in this area. And those are the points I just wanted to draw your attention to.
Thank you, Gareth. Does that conclude your
Oh, yeah, sorry. And obviously, we did make the offer on the 16th of February, which I think you probably will see in the bundle. And I think it was alluded to by Mr. Bufton. But we've got to a point where the difference is whether one extra member of door staff, which has been recommended by Mr. Bowen, or it was a suggestion by Mr. Bowen, or limiting the outside area till midnight. That is what we're essentially, we've got a difference of opinion on, or views on.
Okay, thank you, Gareth. I should just confirm that you are speaking on behalf of, and he doesn't wish to, you've concluded your
Yeah, he's had a tracker get to me, so it's better that I speak for him. You're happy with that, Ken, aren't you? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make
Okay.
sure that we were giving everyone fair chance, you know,
Yeah.
that's fine. Absolutely fine. I'm sure that's fine. So firstly, we're going to ask if the panel have any questions. So that's Councillor Deb or Councillor Adrian. So any questions on what you've just heard from Gareth? No, thank you both. So I'm then going to ask if we have any questions from Paul. Yes, I can see Paul's raised his hand. Thank you, Paul.
Much obliged, Chair. Can I just, ask Gareth, what actions did your client take following the receipt of our letter saying there was a noise issue?
Well, I believe he just made sure that he was doing everything he could in accordance with the license. I don't think relations between him and Miss Murdoch are at a stage where they're on speaking terms, so it's obviously very difficult, isn't it? But he just reviewed his license. He made sure that all the signage was up, that conditions on the license are for him to have signage. He's got door supervisors in place. He's making sure that they are there to control the noise.
Okay, and that brings me on to the point of how do you currently control outdoor noise late at night from the premises?
Well, at the moment, the condition on the existing license is one SIA supervisor. So that supervisor is monitoring the outside area. There is one other non-registered SIA supervisor who's also supervising the pub as well. So there's two people at the moment, as far as I'm aware. But Ken might want to just.
It's okay, Ken, take your time. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know if you heard that, but yeah, Ken was saying obviously there's one SIA door supervisor at the moment. They're obviously monitoring the whole area. And the suggestion is to put another second supervisor on, and that supervisor will deal exclusively with the outside area and man that particular area.
Okay. Okay.
Or woman that particular area, sorry.
Okay. And then one final one from me. What impact would it have on the business if they were unable to use that outdoor area after midnight? Obviously, I'm pointing to the, to get to the crux of it. Those recordings were made in late October, 2-3 in the morning. I don't believe there's any heating outside, and I'm just trying to understand what the impact on the business would, because I understand shutting the door will obviously make people's travel further to that area. So that's going to put some off, and it's also going to stabilize like noise breakout from the pub. But I'm really trying to just get to the crux of what would be the impact on the business if patrons couldn't sit outside and drink after midnight, in late autumn.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you just, sorry, it's quite difficult.
Yeah,
Gareth,
no,
if you
I
could
appreciate it.
okay.
I'll try it. Yeah, yeah, I mean, obviously it's not just late autumn, it would apply for the whole year, wouldn't it? And obviously there's very busy times during the summers when it acts to help to disperse the crowd. It's not a particularly huge premises, as you can see. So, people do like to have a drink outside in the outside area. And, from the point of view of dispersing a big crowd inside, it helps to keep people separated and that kind of thing. In terms of not offering that, not offering the outside area, the adverse impact on the business, I mean, it's very difficult to say until that happens. you know.
Okay.
I mean, it's a difficult one to answer because I haven't got the crystal ball, unfortunately.
Thank you. Paul, is there any further question?
No, that's fine. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So, Andrea, we move to you if you have any questions specifically on the report that you've just heard from Gareth.
Yeah, with regards to the license, we had our own license in 2012. We actually signed when we took the premises over, our own license. So I think it's incorrect in stating the fact that it was a joint license because it wasn't.
Well, yeah, if it came across that I meant there was a joint license, I meant that I should have explained it a bit more clearly. There was a license for the whole, and then we kept the license for the log, and you applied for your own license for the Commodore, didn't you? That's right, isn't it?
In 2012.
Yeah, 2012. Okay, 2012-13.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Thank you. Andrea, do you have any questions to ask? No. Okay, thank you. So I'm just checking, Rachel, that does conclude. There's no further questions from no one else, is there, on that point? Make sure everyone's had a fair chance.
Yes. Yeah. I'm just wondering at this point, Chair, would it be an opportunity for Rod Bowen to perhaps contribute if he wishes to? I know there's written reps.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Do you want to? Yeah, Rod, so shall I open the floor to you?
Thank you, Chair. I was approached by the licensing officer, Natalie Bennett, to advise me that this issue had been raised by the environmental health team and that there was a consideration of a licensing hearing having to be called. And she sought my views as the police licensing officer. And obviously my email stroke report at Annex E was my initial response to the points raised and the matter in hand. I am able to confirm that officers have had to tend to the log cabin over a number of years, specifically to deal with noise complaint issues and antisocial behaviour issues. The general feedback from the officers is of a case of they would speak to the licensee on such attendance, offer words of advice, and ask that person or manager on the evening concerned to do what they considered appropriate to reduce the noise level. What I will say is on the feedback that I've had, in most cases, officers have assessed the level of the noise as not being excessive. What they're saying is it is a licensed premises after all, and that there is obviously going to be some noise pollution. Now, obviously, these officers aren't as trained, and I am able to provide the technical evidence as Paul has been able to in his reports, but that was their initial assessments. But again, I ask a panel to consider the other factor is when you consider what I have just said is that sometimes these officers are attending at least an hour, maybe 2 hours after the initial call because the priority grading of the initial call wouldn't have necessitated any immediate attendance directly as a result of our initial report. What I have been able to do is provide the panel with a sort of breakdown of issues that the police have experienced with the log cabin, and that's detailed at Annex H. That's over a 6-year period. I'm sure the panel members have been able to review those. What I will state and what I've been able to pick out from it myself is that most of those incidents relate to crime and disorder as opposed to public nuisance, noise levels, etc. Hopefully the panel will find that useful in relation to the numbers of incidents. As I say, it's over a 6-year period. So I think there's 36 listed. If you consider over 6 years, we've had 36 calls to that venue. That isn't what I would be considered that excessive, to be perfectly honest, with a licensed venue, which has a license as late as the log cabin does have. As stated within my report, basically what I would suggest is, as has been indicated by Mr. Befton, we as a police service, if you did go down in relation to any sort of conditions or review or change in any conditions on the license, we would suggest that there is a need that if you want those in conditions to be enforced, there will be a need to increase the number of SIA to do that, because it's not fair in allowing bar staff to be able to do the work that would be necessitated in trying to control that area. So that's why we feel it's appropriate as having SIA as opposed to having any additional staff taken on to police that particular terraced area or beer garden, whichever phrase you want to call out a particular area. The only thing that I would say in relation to what Mr. Jones has said during his presentation is that area is used as a smoking area as well. And we would encourage that if that area is there is a need for obviously outside smoking, then that would need to be considered as well in any decision that you as panel members may well need to consider in relation to that particular area and the use of that area after a certain time. You would need to identify a different smoking area for the customers of the log cabin to use. And also in relation to what Mr. Jones said, my understanding is, and perhaps Natalie will be able to confirm this, that particular beer garden isn't a licensed area. It is only used for consumption. Any sale of alcohol, etc., or licensable activities has to take place within the venue itself. That is only an area that is used for consumption. It's not actually used for licensable sales of alcohol. So it sort of corrects what Gareth was saying in relation to the fact that it's a licensed area. It's not a licensed area. It's a beer garden for consumption. And that's the view of the police, really.
Thank you, Rod. Yes, that's useful. I think that's clear. Natalie.
Just to clarify on Rod's point, the license actually has got it stated on it that the licensable area does include part of that outside area. It's got the public bar, the upstairs meeting room, and the outside terrace area. So when we're looking at what's included, that will include the covered area outside that's got the 2 benches. And I've looked at the site plan that is also submitted with the application. I think that's included in the pack. The area does extend to those 4 outside benches as well. So just wanted to confirm that it's not just consumption, it is part of the licensable area. I
apologise then, that's my lack of knowledge. Thank you.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Paul, did you want to add something further? Question, comment?
Is it me or Councillor Deb to go first?
Well, I've got you next on my list, so sorry. It's Zoom.
I don't want to jump in. Shall I go?
Yeah, please.
Thanks for that, Rod. Just one question from me. Would you expect attending police officers when they're going out to a noise complaint to make an assessment from within the hotel itself, the Commodore?
I would have if I had been those officers concerned, but whether those officers would actually do it, I'd be very surprised.
Different generation, Rod.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think I just, what I'm getting at there is, that they've made an assessment. Ideally, I'd want to know where that assessment was made, if it was a curbside or whether it was in the hotel, which would obviously replicate what we'd done. But I'm not sure Rod's going to be able to give us a clear answer on that.
No. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul. And now Councillor Deb. Sorry, it's just the way my list looks. Different teams.
It's fine. Rod, in your professional opinion, we've got 2 licensed premises next door to each other. And we all know that each would cause their own problems with liquor licenses. Can you sort of say that every time that a police officer had been caused to a disturbance, whether it was actually consumed in either or because I mean it is, as Gareth pointed out, it is a centre of town. The neighbouring property that's licensed does hold events. And it's sort of to me, somebody that doesn't know the area, looks like the exits onto public domains, etc., are pretty close together.
What I've been able to provide is a summary where all calls have been, I'm going to use the phrase geo-based, which basically means that we give an exact location of where the incident has been reported and where the person is suggesting the problem has come from. what my summary is specifically targeted at the log cabin as a result of that location within the search parameters that were undertaken by the analysts. It is unlikely on my personal experience and in the time that I've been a licensing officer that we would have any similar types of incidents from the Commodore, is what I would say.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Adrian.
Thanks, Chair. Like to ask Rod with his experience of the area, which I expect he has. Is it just they get directed to the log cabin, but for the complaint? But is it like what was said before, that the whole area is quite busy at night with the kebab shop and the taxi rank and turnout from other venues, and it just seems to be a general area in that part of town, because I don't know it that well. I don't know what it's like at night, but is that quite a busy area anyway, with other activities going on as well?
It is a busy area, but what I will say in relation to the log cabin, it is one of the latest venues within the town of Llandod. So therefore,
Okay.
it does attract customers as a result of the fact that it's the only premises that is open. But in fairness, yes, there is access to the taxi rank, and yes, there is kebab shops further down the road.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if that concludes no further questions of Rod, we'll move on now to so that's to Andrea now to put your, that's correct, isn't it, Rachel? Yeah. So Andrea, you can sort of have your time to put forward your report and your comments.
I'm not really going to go over my own reports. I just want to sort of highlight, as Gareth has mentioned, there are two premises and there are obviously noise from both premises. I have an outside decking area and that's closed at 10 p.m. Does not go past 10 p.m. And the amount of functions that I have in my ballroom is probably, you can count on one hand, it's probably 5 or 6 a year. And we always stop our music at midnight. So we have no late bar. Our own bar in the hotel closes at 11 p.m. because obviously we do have guests in the hotel. So we have to make sure that we are doing the right thing and not going over a late time. That's why we close our decking at 10 p.m. As Rod mentioned earlier, there is an influx of people that come at midnight when the Lanark closes, the Temple Bar closes, the Hampton closes at midnight. They all ascend on the log cabin. And as he mentioned, the report from Mr. Ross Lee, as being one of his customers, has written from the Portland. There's many comments on the TripAdvisor. I'll just read one out to you. This is one of their guests from room 1 in the Portland, which is, as Gareth mentioned, is right opposite the log cabin. So you've got us on one side and the Portland on the other. I'll just read this quickly out to you. We stayed on Friday night in room 1. Despite double glazed, hardly slept a wink because of noise from outside. This rather defeated the object of stopping here overnight to get a restful travel before onwards travel. The pub across the road attracts lots of drinkers who are standing outside all evening, shouting, singing, swearing. This went on till 3 a.m. I don't know if this is a regular Friday night scene, but you have been warned. There may be quieter rooms at the back. And this is replicated all over TripAdvisor from the Portland tea rooms, but likewise on mine from bookings.com. So my main concern is the comfort of my guests, that they get a good night's sleep. I've had to refund hundreds and hundreds of pounds in people coming down, families coming down in the middle of the night with babies leaving because they just cannot sleep. It's not just the room that you see where the noise machine was. It was all of that, all of those rooms on those floors. And it's not true that Ken mentioned to us that they don't use certain rooms. We don't have any choice. When we're full, we have to use rooms. Of course, if it's quiet, we don't use those rooms. We just can't. Even with the addition of the double glazing in that room, it's had no effect whatsoever. So I'm not going to go over my report. There has been some issues with myself and Mr. Sanders, not from my side. I got all respect for Mr. Sanders. He's been in business for many, many years. He is respected in the town. But when we took over the building, he was stealing my utilities for 2 years, and at the beginning refused to engage with us until we had to take it to court, and he did actually settle the day before we went to court. So that's kind of the history between myself and Mr. Sanders. It's not from my side. We were only trying to do the right thing. He told me that utilities had been split when they hadn't, and that was a huge cost to us. So he just doesn't, he's not really a person that likes to engage too much. So I don't really have much more to say on that matter. It's just that the drug situation in town is getting worse, and the amount of drugs that are being taken next door, and the people that are frequenting, and it is getting, and the more drugs they take, the louder they get. So it's just been amplified over the years. It's just not nice. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Andrea. Yeah. So, firstly, Paul, do you have any questions for Andrea?
Yeah, just a quick one from me. Andrew, did you raise your, prior to contacting Environmental Protection in, sorry, I've forgotten the date, August 23, did you raise your concerns direct with the premises?
Yeah, I've been often to the premises next door, and I do have a good relationship with Mr. Sanders' son, Paul Foster. And just for instance, like last Saturday, there's noise, and I went to Paul, and he's quieting the person down. We have quite a good relationship. If he does get too loud and the door's propped open, I will go in and I'll speak to Paul, and he's quite good at toning it down as much as he can.
Just what? Sorry, one more. Oh, go on. Sorry.
I did raise a concern once with Rod, and we did try to speak to Ken about the outside seating, and point blank refused. So it's difficult to deal with.
Do you feel the proposal? Sorry, last question. Do you feel the proposal from us that ceasing the use of that area outside at midnight would be effective in dealing with the situation?
I would hope so. I mean, I don't want him to, close his business down, but I think after 12 o'clock, people have probably drank enough by that time. They're coming from other areas where they've, all drank all night, and they're all quite loud. And I don't think he's going to make much money between 12 and 2. And even to keep them inside for the last 2 hours, I think it would, for me, I think it would be a good suggestion to not use that area. But like Rod said, the issue is, where would they smoke? And also the kicking out time at 3 o'clock, that would have to be monitored closely, because we do get those peaks in noise.
Thank you. So if there's no further questions from Paul, I will move to Gareth. If you have any questions on behalf of Ken of Andrea's report.
Not sure it's a question, so I'm not sure where it's appropriate for me to. Is there? Did you say at the end we have a? Do I have an opportunity at the end to say anything, or? I mean,
yeah.
The only thing is, obviously Andrew's introduced some evidence there which I haven't seen, which you would normally, I have no idea what this Booking.com review for the Portland House. I wouldn't have thought, what's the procedure for introducing new evidence in a licensing appeal hearing like that?
Thank you, Gareth. I'll have to refer to Rachel for legal advice there.
You'll have the opportunity at the end to make any comments or observations or submissions based on what you've heard in the hearing today.
Okay,
that's
great.
Gareth?
Thank you very much, Rachel. Cheers.
So do you have, I presume then you don't have any?
Yeah, I don't think I have any questions. They're more statements, so I'll leave that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And panel members, so Councillor Adrian, do you have any questions for Andrea? No. Councillor Deb? No. Okay, that's fine. If we're happy to conclude item 4 on the agenda then. So item 5 is the opportunity for the applicant to put their points forward and make a statement. So not sure who's going to do that. Is that you, Paul, or
sorry?
Natalie, or
sorry,
So I wasn't sure if you were doing that, or as I presume it's you. Is it? Sorry. Item 5 on the agenda.
Yeah, sorry, I was thrown by applicant. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I know, it's very confusing, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, I am the applicant. Sorry. Yeah, I think you've. I'm satisfied that we've put our points across. There is an issue here that is causing a public nuisance. There are high levels of noise late at night, which impact on the hotel. I think as Gareth sort of helpfully put it earlier, getting towards the crux of the matter is this outside area and whether it should be occupied after midnight or not. We obviously accept all the other conditions they put forward and we're grateful for those. So yeah, for us, the crux of the matter is that, you know, that area shouldn't be used after midnight. If it's continued to be used after midnight, then yeah, those rooms are going to become unusable in our opinion, and that for us satisfies the test of it being a public nuisance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. So at this point, I am going to sort of check and go around it and give everyone an opportunity to give a sort of summing up final statement, if that's okay. So Gareth, would you like me to go to you first? Is that okay?
So, I mean, all I just refer the panel to is the proposal put forward on the 16th of February, which Mr. Sanders is happy to continue with. Obviously, in that, he does suggest that he's happy to be monitored for a further 6 months after those have been implemented to see if those measures have any effect, you know. So the proposals, he's happy to be reviewed in 6 months. Extra SIA registered door staff member who sort of is focused on the outside area, and then obviously a new condition that the door to the outside smoking seating area be kept closed from midnight onwards, and that if there are any speakers on party walls, that they move to non-party walls to sort of avoid that as well. But at the same time, also understanding that there will be the need to continue to monitor that and review that. So that is, he's still prepared to stick by that position, notwithstanding what my letter said, and that is his position as I stand here today. Well, sit here today. The only other couple of points I made, obviously, the evidence that Miss Murdoch introduced from Portland House's guest website or the review. I mean, obviously, I haven't had the opportunity to see that. I don't know, haven't seen that evidence. It's new evidence introduced, but I'm sure Rachel will be able to advise the panel about that. There's also talk. I mean, obviously, I didn't go into any depth about the differences and the disagreements and the issues that have gone on historically between Miss Murdoch and Mr. Sanders, because this is a licensing hearing about noise nuisance. So issues concerning stealing utilities are not relevant, and that's denied. Talk of drug taking in the log cabin, that is denied, and I don't know what evidence Miss Murdoch has got of that, but I mean, I don't think it's appropriate to be making those allegations in a hearing like this. And the other one was that she's talking about closing time being 3 o'clock. Well, as far as I'm aware, last drinks are served at 2 and the premises has to be cleared by 2:30, and that's what I understand the case to be. So I just wanted to clarify that. Those are all the submissions I want to make in addition to what I've already said. Thank you.
No, thank you, Gareth. Andrew, is there anything further you'd like to add?
No, I think I've said everything. As I say, it's I just want our guests to have a good night's sleep and an end to this. It's just been going on way too long, and it's enough is enough.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Panel members, are you satisfied that you've asked the relevant questions? Happy? Yeah.
Fine.
I'm just going to double check, Rod, if there's anything you want to add further.
No, thank you, Chair.
No, thank you. And Natalie and Paul, you've happy that we conclude this part of the meeting?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Just want to make sure everyone's had ample opportunity to have their raise their points or questions and everything. So so we're all happy that that is the case, that we've heard the evidence and the questions and comments. We've had ample opportunity. So Rachel, are we happy now if we pause this part of the meeting?
Yes, if Carol can please arrange for the councillors and myself to go backstage, and then we will return with a decision in due course.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'm
thank you,
afraid I
Chair,
can't
Rachel.
give you, I can't give you any time limits, because normally we would say back at XYZ, but the panel will take as long as it takes. So apologies, you'll just have to bear with the panel, and we will be back as soon as we can. Go on, Gareth, you're desperate to say something.
No, so that's fine, absolutely fine. So I just keep this open until you come back then, or yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
that's
thank
right,
you.
isn't it,
Thank you very
Carol?
much.
Yes, that's correct. What I'll do is I'm moving members now to the backstage. The rest
Okay.
of us will stay this side of the meeting. I'll pause the recording, but if you want to mute your microphones and also stop your videos, then it'll just be a blank screen for the moment. But obviously we are still webcasting.
Yeah, so if you're on
So-
mute, you can talk amongst yourselves, but yes, go on
Yes.
mute.
That's correct.
Thanks, Carol. So members of the panel will disappear now into the backstage room.
So Chair, I've moved the others, so I'm just about to move yourself.
Yep. Thank you, Carol. So thank you for waiting and bearing with us while we had a discussion and deliberation. So I am going to deliver the verdict of our discussions, and then we will close the hearing. So we've considered all the licensing objectives and all the information that we have received, and we've come to the conclusion that there is a level of noise, and we recommend the following our decision, following the deliberations. So the outside area will remain within the license. The increase of the SIA officers to 2 from 2,100 hours until the premises are cleared on the current pattern, which is every Friday, Saturday, Sunday preceding a bank holiday, and we've got New Year's Eve through to closure on New Year's Day, Christmas Eve and Boxing Day. The outside area to be restricted to a smoking only area from midnight, with no drinks to be consumed on the outside area after this time. The outside door to be closed from midnight. And as per your offer, we would recommend that you do relocate the speakers from the adjoining walls as per your offer in the pack. I'm going to address it to you, Gareth, and on behalf of Ken. So Gareth and Ken, so the decision will be received in writing from Rachel as the solicitor. And you will have that all in writing, and you will have 21 days to appeal that decision directly to the magistrate, but you'll have it all in writing that will be clear from the solicitor, which is Rachel. So thank you, members, and we will conclude the hearing, and thank you for your time this morning and your patience with our technical issues with Zoom. So thank you, and we'll close the hearing.
Thank you.